Yo, what up, guys? What up? What up? Another day, guys. Another day. Again, streaming in the middle of the day. So while I work, how I mentioned, guys, I'm gonna be doing this every day, Monday through Friday, for the month of April. I'm actually way later than what I like to. So even though I am gonna have to cut it short some, but I still wanted to join the stream, man. And that's one of the things I kind of wanted to touch bases on today. Is one of the things that I have been doing in my day to day life, right? Is being disciplined on doing what I said I'm going to do, right? Even though this may seem like, oh, it was just a YouTube video, just a stream, right? It's not a big deal, but it's building that consistency, being disciplined to do it regardless of what happens, guys. There's a lot of stuff that came up this morning, busy work wise. And the reason why I really couldn't stream even at that point, because I was on phone calls, I was in meeting um, with clients, with a teammate and so forth. And because of that, it makes it challenging. Like I can't use my mic when I'm in a meeting with somebody on Microsoft Teams because my mic needs to be used for that. If I'm on a call, I gotta mute my session, things of that nature. So I was trying to finish all of that first. It just all of that, I didn't get done until a lot later, which is why I started my stream way later than what I like, right? So I don't have as much time today, but nevertheless, I still wanted to join. I still wanted to, again, be disciplined on sticking to the schedule, right? Sticking to the action on hand. And that's what you have to do, man. So it's I don't know, all the time we depend on, we want to get motivated or we need people to motivate us to do certain things. I'm not saying that doesn't help, because it does to some extent, but there's this other aspect to it. It's not motivation. It's just plain simple discipline. That's all it is, discipline, right? Discipline yourself to do what you said you're going to do. In my case, it's this, but also start applying that to anything, right? Maybe it's going to the gym, right? Maybe it's, you have a goal, you want to lose weight, you want to get fit, as an example. That may require you go to the gym, let's say 4 to 5 times a week. All right, now you know how many times you should go. Now it's a matter of being disciplined. Doesn't matter you feel like going, forget your feelings. Doesn't matter, how the weather is that day. Doesn't matter you have the gear or none of that matters, man. You got to start somewhere, be disciplined to do it 4 to 5 times a week if that's what your goal is, and make it a habit. And what happens over time, these habits become normal in your everyday life. So now the discipline aspect of it becomes so much easier because it's not as challenging. Hold on. So yeah, guys, that's something to wanted to touch bases. So I've been doing some playing around. Man, it still looks kind of dark, man. I swear I thought I tweaked it some, and I swear it looked a little bit better just a few moments ago. But now that I'm looking at it, it doesn't. Looks like my screen got a lot darker for some reason. And that's because my light's bright, dude. It's my camera, man. So my camera, I do have it on auto exposure. So it's trying to adjust the light based on how much light's coming in. It's adjusting. But it's not allowing too much light. I swear I tweaked the ISO on it. It still feels too dark. Because it's not that dark. I'm looking at, yeah, I don't know, man. I'll play around. I don't have a lot of time today. So I'll play around with that later on. What I'm working on today is I've been working on made some changes. I'm working on this integration project, and I can show the documentation. It's not an issue. Ultimately, working on this integration project. Oops. And And ultimately, the integration project requires me to integrate with PeopleSoft. So in this case, it where I'm integrating with their system, which is expecting a SOAP formatted XML. So anybody who has done any modern RESTful API integration, you normally are most likely dealing with like a JSON or an XML document, right? And those are pretty straightforward if especially if you've been exposed to those document types. So SOAP is a format. Again, SOAP is XML. Put it that way. It's XML, but it's a specific format. Like it has formatting associated to it. Let me kind of show this diagram to see maybe this helps out a little bit. So for example, in this diagram, we have SOAP and we have REST. Keep in mind, you're transmitting a piece of data over HTTP, right? So it's HTTP protocol. That doesn't change. That protocol is still the same. The data, you're transmitting data. So whether it be just a XML or a SOAP format XML, at the end of the day, it's XML, right? So the data is technically the same XML. The difference is this data happens to be in a SOAP standard format, where down below, like a traditional RESTful API, there is no standard. The standard, if anything, really is very specific, obviously, to your endpoint. Based on whatever endpoint you're submitting these XML documents to, you gotta, structure it to that system ultimately, right? Again, SOAP is similar as well. You do have to have the structure in a certain way, but there is a SOAP standard, and just kind of show you an example. Those of you who could be slightly a little bit new, here is an example of how that looks. So if we take a look at this, and this is an error response that you get back, and what I want to call it just plain XML with no SOAP formatting, which is very traditional, right? And by traditional, I mean if you have dealt with just standard regular XML, this is how it ultimately will look like. Man, where's my highlighted section that I had? There it goes. Which is like this, right? Ultimately, you have your different nodes. In this case, is IB, your tags, so IB response. And then ultimately inside this node, we have a tag of title. Very straightforward, nothing special. If we look at the equivalent of this, but in a SOAP formatted XML, again, very similar. You're going to see the same names, obviously. But in this case, you have the body in here. So this body piece technically is, I believe, identical to what we have over here for the most have, with the exception is where it's being packaged into a SOAP body, right? And that's kind of where the format comes in, right? When you're dealing with SOAP, you have what's called an envelope. Again, think of it no different than a physical envelope. And then inside that envelope, you have headers that you provide. Headers are used for different aspects. It could be for credentials, where you put in your credentials, username, again, there's other stuff you could add on to it. It all depends on what they want. But nevertheless, you package, there's a header section. This example, this is a response, so there's no header in the response. But normally if there was, you would have right before this tag, you would have a SOAP envelope, then it will say header. And then they will have some information there. And so you have an envelope, and inside the envelope, you have two nodes. You have a header node and a body node. Header node, again, has some header information, maybe credentials, things of that nature. And then you have a body node. And that's here, the body node. this body node, now you have another node that specifies failure. And then inside there, you have your detail, then you have your XML. Again, in normal, and let's say a more modern, like a RESTful, when you're dealing with a plain XML response that's not SOAP formatted, right? It's not coming in the format of an envelope and none of that. You will most likely just get this back. And that's kind of where a lot of RESTful API integration projects that are out, that like Shopify and some of the other platforms, as you post something, you get back just literally your message, and that's it. Pretty straightforward. In this case, because it is being wrapped in a SOAP, as you could tell, SOAP specific XML. Again, it's XML, but it just SOAP formatted in a SOAP format document. So this is the difference. So now you're dealing with all of this other stuff. SOAP is more so, it's been around for years, man. Way before RESTful, like your traditional RESTful API that we deal with today. Again, the protocol for transmitting is the same. You are dealing with HTTP, protocol. That is how you transmit these documents, the XMLs over. So that aspect of it obviously is the same. But you normally when you deal, but what was I gonna say? That's the same. It just the formatting of the actual XML document is different. And this is kind of more of a standard with other systems that accept SOAP. Same concept. You have an envelope, you have a header, you have a body, things of that nature, right? There's things that are obviously more customized that not every system has, but it's all ultimately the same from a high level of a SOAP envelope, SOAP header, SOAP body. That's like the basic structure of SOAP. Hold on, let me send. Got a message I need to send real quick. Test it out if you filed. Everything looks good. I have pushed changes to production. Have compiled it as well. I just realized it was pointing to the wrong folder. So the job ran. So there are 2 files that got loaded that shouldn't have, but I have made the changes. When you say got loaded, are you saying test files got loaded into production, or production files got loaded into test? So somebody from my team, they just made some changes that we were doing. There was some urgency in this process. We figured out what the issue is. So she was doing some testing. She made some updates in the mapping, doing some testing. Testing came back successful, but she pushed these changes over from test to prod. But when she pushed it over, she realized that it was pointing to the test folders instead of the production folders. So when the job ran, it loaded these test files to production. Let me see. Have you discard those records in production? All right, let's see what she says. No, but the EDI job picked up those up because it ran it right after the other job. So we sent test files over to them. So it sounds like these test files already got sent over. Hmm. Which for which events was this for? Was it for the let me see. This may not be an issue now that I think about it. Was the file actually dev files or files that we copied from production and tested with? All right, so that should be fine. Ooh, man, I'm glad. I was thinking we have a test environment and we do testing in there. Though that those files are like the data's is just random bad data, right? When I say bad, like it's not real data. That was my concern when she said that we process test files and send it over to them. That will be an issue if we send them over like dummy records, But what really what happened is we tested out, we made the changes in test, but we actually tested production files that we had. So whenever she did deploy this to production, um, even though it was pointing to the test environment, test folder, better yet, it did process production files again. Right, we already processed the one, processed it again, which is not an issue. In this case, it's actually fine. So it worked out well. So that's not an issue then. Ooh, man, I was thinking it may be a bigger issue than not, but it worked out well. Okay. Um, but yeah, that's what I'm working on now, man. I'm working on a project where I got my schema updated to the schema they provided. I was able to generate the XML that's packaged in the SOAP format, which is again envelope, header, body, and then ultimately the body piece, right? This is the body here. This XML schema, apply it to the format that they provided. The problem I'm having now is, and I think I may know what the issue is, but one of the things I was reading here in their documentation is SOAP action must always be an HTTP header. So let's see, warning, when you send message parameters in the SOAP header, those parameters, including the password, aren't secure if you don't encrypt the message. You can secure message by implementing SSL, blah, blah, blah. So either way, that's not the case in my case. So I did do some testing where I do have my content type as application, SOAP, XML, but see how there's this action, and then it wants the value of the SOAP action. Well, the SOAP action should be it should be a URL pretty much, and that was not provided by, or my bad, if it's, I don't, maybe it's not the URL. I think what it is, it's the actual, like the URI of the URL, right? Like where the endpoint on where it needs to specify to know what service to post this to. And that wasn't provided. So I did message them. We'll see what they say, what kind of email response. We have a meeting tomorrow related to this. So if I don't get an answer back, it's actually an early meeting too, man. For me, it's early. It's like at 8:30. So I normally don't try to schedule any meetings until 10. For different reasons. Sometimes I do get up early, but when I get up early, I like to, get my day started, whether it be going through emails, if there's any issues, have time to fix some of these issues, just kind of go through certain things that need to be done for the day and stuff like that. But this specific client, and they're in the East Coast, so it's more, for them, it's actually a little bit later than for me, but they love scheduling around 8:30 all the time, first thing in the morning. Kind of get it, because for them, it's really 9:30. So like, hey, let's meet early. So there's questions. You got to remain in the day. They need to fix stuff. So I totally understand. But yeah, man, I'm not an early bird. And for me, that's actually a bit on the early side. So, but yeah, man, I'm working on this. I got a few projects, to be honest with you, in the pipeline. We're going to be doing some CargoWise integration. One of my clients, they're switching from one of their systems, 3PL Central, over to CargoWise. And we have a handful of clients right now that we're integrating in that system. But there's one specific client that we're going to do integration for, but they want to start using CargoWise. So I need to connect to that API, do some mapping to convert some these records that I have in the database over to the XML schema, like that matches their format. And then ultimately do some testing of posting the XML to their RESTful API. And then do some configuration on the CargoWise side where, as orders are completed, triggers will be configured to trigger out these XMLs out of that system and sent over to my web service. And then I'm going to have a process to consume that data, right? As new files come in, go ahead and pretty much extract the data, and we're going to end up sending it to another system. And for this specific one, what is it called? ParseJet. I think that's what it's called. So I need to review that API. I never done integration with that system before. I had with CargoWise, so I'm familiar with it already, but not ParseJet. So I got to review that documentation, review to see. I also need access for the client. The client needs to give me access. But nevertheless, that's the ultimate goal we're doing for that customer. Ideally, what's going to happen is all these other customers that we have, that are going to the 3PL Central system, we're going to have to remap and pretty much start integrating that over to CargoWise. And then also make sure that we have transmissions come back out when orders get completed and capture, like tracking, all that other information. And then obviously send that data on to where it needs to go, which would be back to those trade partners. Like some of these will go back to Shopify, so we need to post it to the Shopify platform. Others we are integrating with SPS, TrueCommerce. What else? Trying to think of some of the systems that other ones, we don't even send it to their system. We literally send it to an FTP site or SFTP. And then ultimately, obviously, their system picks it up and does whatever to it. But in those cases, but I'm not sure what system they're using in those cases. All right, guys. Again, man, this was a short stream. Again, on this piece that I'm showing you with the SOAP XML format, I kind of did everything that I can do. I already emailed them, emailed the client, so waiting for a response back on why I cannot post that. There's still more work that needs to be done. So this is one chunk of it, but there's another piece that I need to nail down, which is a piece where we're getting documentations. So when an invoice gets invoiced in a specific system, in this case, CargoWise system, what's going to happen is the end user is going to, instead of printing out or email the invoice to the client, they're going to email it to a specific email account that I'm going to give them, and then ultimately they're going to attach files to this email send out that comes out of the system. So it would have the invoice attachment, and then it would have other documents as well, like mini documents. Like, honestly, you could have anywhere from like 20 to 50 documents that all will get sent out in one email. What I need to build is whenever I get that email into this specific email account, have a process where we're able to download all the files. But now I need to segregate these files by finding some sort of name pattern, right? So if it's like packing list documents, put all of those in a folder. If it's bill of lading documents, put those in the folder. If it's commercial invoice documents, put those in the folder. If it's whatever else, right, miscellaneous documents, put that in a folder. So everything will go into a specific folder, and maybe it will end up being like 6 or 7 different folders of different document types. Once these are all in their folders, now that's where my process would end up consolidating, merging all of these PDFs to one PDF. All right, so that's number one. And then once it merges it, my process will end up encoding these files to base 64 and take that value and add it to the SOAP XML document. And ultimately send that on over, right, to the API, to the endpoint. So, but that piece, when it comes to downloading, getting the documents, I'm trying to think of what are other options to make it work. But right now, I think it'll have to be through email, and then because documents change as well. And we're trying to make it not necessarily where they got to go and drop these files either, because all the files live in that system. So the last thing we want to do, add more work to the end user, where we're like I could easily build some sort of application where be like, hey, just drop your files in here, and then the app could sort it out and do all of that. But then it becomes pain in the butt to have them have files in one system, but now they got to take those files out of that system and move it to another system. So the easiest way we're thinking would be them to just, when they generate the invoice, when they do invoice, they have that bad boy just export out all the other documents that are associated with it in one email body. And then from there, I could build a process to, download those attachments and sort it properly, do all of that stuff. But yeah, that's kind of the goal here. Again, guys, man, it's short stream, but how I mentioned before, man, it's all about trying to stay on schedule, man. I told myself I'm going to stream every day, Monday through Friday, no matter what. Even in my case, it's only 30 minutes today. Tomorrow, I'll hopefully be back to a normal schedule and stream at least an hour or more. But gotta stay consistent, man. You gotta make yourself. So again, if you're trying to, whatever it is, you're trying to save money, trying to get out of debt, you're trying to get fit, trying to go to the gym, whatever it is, guys, it doesn't matter. Even if, let's say you're trying to save money, and then invest, and maybe your goal is $1,000 a month, but things happen sometimes, right? Car breaks down, you need to buy new tires or whatever. Again, things happen. But even in those cases, dude, even if it's $10 that month, just something, guys, right? And it's more the psychological aspect. It has nothing to do with are you able to or not. It's more the mental and psychological aspect of it, of staying committed, even when things become very tough and things may not seem like, damn, I cannot really put money this month because of X, Y, and reason. something, guys, something, because that's something at least you start building that seed in your mind, right? Like of discipline, no matter what, right? No matter what happens, you're still putting action, you're still doing something. So keep that in mind. Hopefully help somebody out. Again, guys, man, appreciate it. Short stream tomorrow. Hopefully it should be a lot longer. And yeah, man, y'all take care. See y'all then. Peace.